the darkness below. I used to work as a security officer. I was asked to work a Saturday night shift at an old warehouse in Dudley. I turned up at 5 p.m. where the building was a huge brick warehouse with some makeshift offices at the front. I walked in, took the keys from the day officer, and locked the doors behind him. Everything seemed normal for a while. It was a bit creepy as the building was so old, but I was used to that. Around 1 a.m., I got a call from the warehouse manager. One of his night drivers had forgotten his paperwork and asked me to go into the office and collect it for him so he can pick it up. I said fine and headed to the office. The warehouse was pitch black. I had a small torch, but it only lit the way slightly. I walked through until I got to the office door, which was a huge metal sliding door. It made a screeching noise as I pulled it open. As I walked in the front of me was the office fax machine, which was blinking and the paperwork was printed out. I grabbed the paperwork, but as I turned around, I looked to the other end of the office and saw what I can only describe as a dark figure, hunched over, shivering. I can hear what sounded like breathing, but like if you were freezing cold. I stood there for 30 seconds, motionless, staring at this figure. I turned back slowly and closed the door behind me, rushing back to the front office, where I locked the door and waited for the driver. An hour later, the driver collected his paperwork, and for the rest of the night, I convinced myself it was just the dark playing tricks with me. But that didn't stop me from unlocking the office door or checking the cameras every few minutes. 5 a.m. turned up, and I got a knock on the door from the day officer. I'd handed him the keys and expected him to come in, but he locked the door from the outside. I asked him if he was coming in. He said he doesn't go in when there's no one else in, but sits in his car in the parking lot and waits. I said that's a bit strange. He looked at me and asked if I went anywhere else other than the security office. I told him I went to the back office to get paperwork for a driver, not telling him about the incident. I'll never forget the look he gave me or what he said next. He looked me in the eyes and said, "Well, now you know why I don't go back there alone then." It gave me chills, but I shrugged it off and just said, "Okay then," and left for home. Safe to say, on the way home, I called my office and requested not to go back there ever again. I grew up in the 90s in Minnesota. My parents divorced when I was 8, and we would spend every other weekend at my dad's haunted house. This house had every type of ghost you can think of. A shadow man in a trench coat and a brimmed hat. Another shepherd shadow figure that danced down a hallway. A man dressed to go fishing. A doppelganger of my father, and 2 giggling little ghost girls, and many other unseen entities. The dishwasher, radios, and lights would turn themselves on and off randomly. Loud banging would be heard on walls and doors. Door handles would jiggle and turn on their own. Feeling of being touched or caressed in the shower was reported. My father also had an incident where he felt someone crawl into bed with him in the middle of the night when he was home alone. My uncle reported hearing 2 little girls giggling and singing in the basement one night while sleeping downstairs. Upon awakening the next morning, he discovered there were no kids in the house that night. So who did he hear playing in the middle of the night? One sunny Saturday morning, while visiting my dad, my brother and I were up early watching cartoons. I was 8 years old, and my brother was 3. As we sat on the couch, we heard 3 alerting knocking sounds on the wall 6 feet behind us. Our heads snapped back to look at the wall where the sound was coming from, but we saw nothing. My brother and I turned to look at each other with frightened eyes. I, being the older sister, tried to be brave and told him it was nothing. As we turn our attention back to the cartoons, my little 8-year-old brain is spinning. What if that banging sound we just heard wasn't just the pipes, as I had been told many times? What if it was a ghost? I hate when a ghost come around. Why isn't my dad around whenever this happens? As these things swirl in my head, we hear it again. This time, it's coming from somewhere in the kitchen, off to our left. It's not as loud as the first time, and the sound is different, like someone is knocking on the kitchen counter this time instead of the wall. We quickly strain our necks to peek inside the kitchen with lightning speed to catch whomever or whatever is making the noise. Again, there is nothing there. I take a deep breath once again and pretend to be brave and tell my brother, it's nothing, just ignore it. My heart is thumping in my chest, and there are butterflies in my stomach as the familiar anxiety grows worse with each passing second. I tuck myself up on the couch in a ball, not wanting my legs to dangle off the side. I no longer feel safe. Nothing is to be trusted. This time, the sound is coming from the dining room. I could tell the noise is coming from the wooden dining room table this time. I can see the entire table from where I am sitting, and there is nothing on the table that should be making that noise. No one except me and my brother are awake. There is no one in the dining room. There is no logical reason for this knocking sound that is moving around us. Just when I realize the knocking sounds have been moving in a big circle around us. If this invisible entity is to move anywhere closer to us, the next logical place for it to be would be in the living room where me and my brother are currently sitting. A knock would be on the coffee table sitting less than a foot away. No sooner than that thought crossed my mind, it happened. This time the noise was coming from the coffee table less than a foot away from us. I instantly flipped over the back of the couch in a reverse somersault-like motion and ran at superhuman speed to my father's bedroom. In my panic, I completely left my 3-year-old brother behind to fend for himself. Luckily, he wasn't too far behind. We snuck into our father's room and quietly laid on the floor. Our father would have been super pissed if we woke him up, even on an early Saturday morning, for a ghost. In our commotion, we woke up our 6-year-old sister who was asleep on our dad's floor. Us 3 kids always slept on his floor together when we were visiting. So we quietly whispered what just happened out in the living room to our sister. As we were telling her this story, something catches our eye. We can see a black shadow under the small space between the bottom of the door and the plush carpet. This black shadow is slowly pacing back and forth in the hallway just on the other side of the bedroom door. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, like the shadow is waiting for us. Unfortunately, I don't remember what happened up to this point. Somehow the rest of that memory has been lost with time. But I do know for sure we didn't open that door. I work as maintenance at a meat packaging company at night. I used to work the kill floor during an early shift doing various jobs, but then I moved to nights doing what I do now. The level of activity is insane, to say the least. Last night, I've gotten bit by one, which really spooked me out. I swear, there's never a dull moment here at the plant. Here are some of the things I've witnessed, and the things other employees said that goes on here. People being pushed down in the woman's locker room while cleaning. Seeing the slabs of beef in the coolers swing from side to side. Lockers slamming shut. Workers getting their hair pulled. Disembodied hands on your shoulder. Someone working on a machine but no one is there. Hearing someone walking down the hallways. Disembodied whistling. Pounding on the lunchroom tables and full-bodied apparitions walking by. You think it's a person, but when you go to check, no one is there. I have many pictures of scratches on my forehead, arms, and face. I got one every single night without fail. There are many different entities at this site, from tall ones standing 12 feet or more, to small ones 3 feet and less. These things would even follow you home. I've had them shake me awake, yell in my ear, scratch me while I'm watching TV, and even lay down in a bed with me while I'm resting. They all seem to have a strong presence and shouldn't be taken lightly. The cuts I've gotten are so fine and perfect that it's unbelievable. They would mark my face when I'm asleep too. One of them got me across the nose, ear, and even got me on my left knee while I was laying down. The wound was so bad, it left a scar to this day. Good evening, everyone. This is Yuri K, and this is the end of the video. If you happen to enjoy this content, then please like and share amongst your friends and family. Make sure you comment any suggestions about this page to make it better. If you're new to this channel, please subscribe. It's free, and you can change it in the future. Also, make sure that you hit that notification bell so that way you never miss a video. You happen to have story suggestions? Please send it to my email, darknessbelowstories@gmail.com. But until then, you guys stay safe out there. And remember to always be afraid of the dark.